Hello everyone, Russ of Aquarimax Pets here with an unboxing from roachcrossing.com. It's been a little while since we've done one from Roach Crossing, so I'm glad to have another one to do here. Roach Crossing has, of course, not just roaches, lots of other creatures as well, from various arachnids like amblypygids to isopods of various sorts. Kyle's been in the isopod hobby and business for a long time, longer than most. And a lot of the favorites in the hobby are in the hobby in large part because of Kyle. So, good place to go for your isopods. All right. Now these are Vulgari Magic Potion, but I gotta tell you, the Magic Potion, these are the unadulterated Magic Potion. These are the true Magic Potion. There is no Magic Potion that is true besides these, because Kyle and Jay Fiore are the two people responsible for bringing Magic Potion into the hobby. Jay Fiore discovered some interesting individuals and got them to Kyle. Kyle worked with them, did selective breeding with them. He worked specifically to get those amazing yellow markings, and that's where the name comes from. Those yellow markings against the white and those flecks remind one of a magic potion. So that's where the name comes from. Anything else that's not descended from these that is called magic potion really ought to be called something else. I'm excited to have some of these. These are pure line stock, never been mixed with anything else. And you can't say that about every magic potion out there, because of the name being used for specimens that are not descended from these. It's caused some confusion and some mixing and things like that. I have a line of magic potion, but they took a dive. The culture didn't ever die off, but it crashed a little bit. So I'm really excited for these as well. Now these are Porcellio laevis, true Porcellio laevis, and this line is called How Now. It's descended from Caramel laevis, and it is, again, this line is something that Kyle worked on. He brought this line to the hobby from his own work, and as you can see, they're reminiscent of milkbacks, but they're not milkbacks, but they do have kind of the light patch with the darker pigmentation around. But as they're descended from caramel laevis, they have kind of a caramel color, which is why they're called How Nows. I love the name. If you're familiar with How Now Brown Cow, you can see where these came from. Pretty cool. Sweet. I'm also excited to work with these. These are Porcellio Scaber Lucy. I have a real fascination for leucistic, or leucistic as it's more correctly pronounced, leucistic animals. These are Porcellio Scaber that are leucistic. So they have, they produce pigment, but they produce pigment in a different way. In other words, it's distributed differently in their body than it would be with a normal individual. They produce the pigment, but it's not distributed the same way. So it's very possible that, for example, magic potions could be a leucistic form of Armadillidium vulgare. These are a leucistic form of Porcellio Scaber. So I'm excited to work with these. Okay, I've prepared several bins. You can see that in addition to fairly new dry leaf litter, I have some really nicely aged leaf litter that I've added in here, which will be a good source of bacteria, beneficial bacteria, and also just food because they've decayed for a good while. This is leaf litter I decayed in a bucket. I didn't just go scoop this out of the backyard. I scooped it out of the backyard dry and then soaked it for months, and that's how I got that. Safer that way. You don't end up introducing pests, or at least the likelihood of introducing pests is greatly reduced. And in fact, I heard of that method first from Kyle. Look at that. That is a beautiful color. kind of reminds me of ember, but it has a distinct look to it. I love those dark eyes contrasting with the rest of the animal. Many leucistic animals or leucistic animals have either black or blue eyes, both demonstrative of melanin at different depths in the eyes or different places in the eyes, but then the rest of the body. And this one is light. Some leucistic animals have a lot of markings, irregular dark markings on them. I'll be interested to see how these mature out. That one looks like it's, it's mostly grown, not completely, but I'm gonna just put it down there into the leaf litter. I can see a lot of them on the paper toweling here. Just gonna let them spread out and go do their thing. And there's several more individuals in here, so I'll put those in there as well. You get a little paintbrush here and carefully get them off the paper towel. One thing you should do with isopods when you are, if they're being shipped on paper towel or moss, you need to be very careful either way not to dispose of any of them. And one thing I like to do, because the paper towels are typically, and I do ship on paper towel with mine, is split the ply of paper towel and look very carefully to make sure that there are none that have inserted themselves between the two plies of paper towel, because that can happen. And if it's moss, you just leave the moss in the enclosure. And I'll probably actually just leave the paper towel in here in a corner, and just in case I miss some really small monkey or anything. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera there. And there we go. Those are fabulous. And next we have the how nows. I'm really happy to have the how nows. I've been looking at them for a long time, but now that I'm no longer distributing milkbacks or dairy cows, I'm no longer shipping them across state lines, I'm excited to have what can be essentially a true Laevis replacement for milkbacks, because they have it's not the same appearance, but they look kind of similar, and they're similar in many ways. So I'm happy to have them. They are, like Laevis, they tend to be a nice prolific isopod. They can be good for various bioactive setups, not necessarily all bioactive setups. They can be a good bioactive species. And I really like the way these look. Like caramely, almost like caramely milkbacks. But I'm glad that Kyle came up with a very unique name so people won't confuse them for milkbacks, because that could lead to all sorts of difficulties. And so, yeah, I've always thought that's cool how Kyle comes up with, first of all, very interesting names, but also names that are descriptive and not to be confused with others. So I'm just going to put that over in the corner there so that they can work their way out if there are any in there. I don't think there are, but now we'll be sure. I want to give a shout out to my patrons too. I really appreciate all you do, help make the channel succeed, and as do people like Kyle who are helping me out, sending me some isopods. So appreciate everyone who had anything to do with this video, and that includes all of you for watching, and includes especially my patrons, and of course Kyle of Roach Crossing. So if you haven't been to his website, make sure to check that out. And he does have biannual auctions that are pretty amazing. So the next one should be in the spring, so stay tuned for that. Invertebrate auctions that are amazing. So here we go. Armadillidium vulgare magic potion. Easily one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful, form of Armadillidium vulgare. Like I said, those yellow markings, which can be present to some degree in many different strains of Armadillidium vulgare, were selectively bred for in this strain. This strain also gets really big. It gets very, very large in comparison to most other strains of this species, grows slowly, reproduces fairly slowly. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of the holy grail of Armadillidium vulgare, especially when you get a pure line stock like this. Oh, and there's some nice large specimens in here. Really, this is how beautiful that is. Just going to ease them off onto the cork bark and whatnot so they can do their thing. Another thing you want to do when you get or shipped isopods, and make sure you look carefully in here. You don't want to leave any tiny monkey in there. It's not uncommon for isopods to release the contents of their marsupia into the shipping container. It's not at all unheard of. It's happened to me several times. So you always want to check very carefully and make sure you're not leaving any little isopods behind. Let's take a close look at some of these. So you can see Kyle stock consistently has a lot of yellow. That's just beautiful. Well, I don't want to bother it too much. I was going to see if I could get it to. It'll crawl off the paper towel on its own at some point. There it goes. I just don't want it to crawl out of the shot too soon, and I don't want it to be overexposed, but that might be asking for too much. There it goes. Let's see. Here we go. Are you on the, yeah, there. Now it's on the piece of cork. I'm going to scoot it over so you can check that out. Look at that beautiful isopod. Just going to put that right there, allow them to crawl if they so desire. All right, well, that is about it. Thanks once again, Kyle. And thanks for watching, everyone. I post videos every Friday with live streams once a week as well. Please feel free to share, rate, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And then tap the bell for all notifications so you don't miss my next video.